you're not on the clock and it's not right. So for example, she had said that there was someone here that was definitely underage that had gotten a beverage somehow. Our staff needs to be doing everything that they can to be doing things correctly. Okay, so number one, we're doing everything that we're trained to do. Number two, if a manager or a server or bartender notices it, we need to deal with it immediately. Number three, you kind of have to use the rule of thumb is, are you seeking it out? You know, if you're a guest, if you're going around looking and snooping for people, that's probably not the route we want you to be taking. You're not on the clock, we don't want you to be patrolling for those sorts of things. But as soon as you're mindful of something that is illegal, you're kind of obligated to report that. I'm not going to put you in a position that you're not comfortable with. If you walk away from it, I'm not going to hold that against you because you're not working. It wasn't your responsibility that I can control. But it's kind of the same thing as if you're in another scenario of you see somebody walking out the door who's intoxicated and about to get in a car. You have an obligation to do the right thing. So if you notice somebody that's significantly underage, I would not get involved in the situation. I wouldn't talk to them. I would just approach your manager and say, just so you know, there's a few individuals over in this area or this person specifically that I know isn't of age, and you might want to make sure that your bartenders don't continue to serve them. So you're not walking over and taking their drink, you're not walking over and approaching it, you're letting the staff handle it because it can put you in an awkward position and it just makes everything seem a little bit wonky, and we don't want you to have to worry about that. I've also had it where maybe you're a bartender normally or you're here for an event and it's super swamped. If you're not on the clock, you're not going behind the bar, you're not going back in the kitchen, you're not helping with those sorts of things. As much as we appreciate the thought and the gesture, just making sure that you separate yourself because we don't want any guests to confuse what is okay and what's not. So if you're here for fun, have fun. If you're here to work, work. So hopefully that answers the question enough. Okay. Oh. We're going to put you in timeout for that one, right? All right, last thing for the night here is our new AV system. So this has been up and running since the beginning of May. We've had a couple bugs to get fixed, but everything is working really well and solid now. So appreciate everybody helping me get things squared away. But number one, it comes off the wall, okay? It's just a magnet to the wall. We're going to go ahead and just square it on, and it'll say it's charging if it's attached. My suggestion to you is if you're comfortable with it, just keep it with you. Because it's not such a strong attachment here, if a kid comes up and wants, they can take it off. You just need to be mindful that it's an iPad, it's what's running our AV system. Don't drop it, don't crack it, don't break it, don't lose it. I mean, respect it, please. So open it up here. I'm going to put it back on the wall so it's easier for you to see. To open it up, now that it's done charging, it's all twos. Okay, we have different options across the bottom, and we'll work our way through together. So the first is video. The reason I'm having bartenders train on this, you guys are probably like, what in the world, why am I learning this, is you're going to have access to this as soon as I get all the coding done behind the bar. So all of the iPads in the facility will have access to this. So if somebody comes up to you and says, hey, can you turn the lights on? You can turn the lights on. Please leave the operations to the manager if possible, but if you're helping out and being benefit to the team, go ahead and do so. Obviously, we're all respectful adults. We're not going to be messing with things so that the manager's having a panic attack or, like changing the stations on them just to mess with them. Okay, make sure that we're respecting it. But looking across here, video. So source is going to be where your information is coming from. Right now, up here, we are only using HDMI cord. I'm getting this piece replaced. The VGA up here is very spotty. You can plug it in and you can use it, but it kind of, depending on the day, is not very consistent. So HDMI only here. If you need to plug in a VGA only, any of the other ones will work. And even now we have the ability, if the wall is up, you can plug in over there and still get it to project in here. So it will work that way. So you choose your source. Okay, so if I'm plugged into the Great View Room wall plate, that means anything going in right here. I'm going to tell it the destination. So if I want it to go to the Great View Room, Southwest Hall, Southeast Hall, lobby. Now anything that's plugged into here will automatically go to those locations. If we have two events going on, I have one in the Southwest Hall, and I want the Southwest Hall to have that information only, and I want the lobby to have the Great View Room. You can choose who is getting what, basically, here. The power option is going to turn on your projectors and connect it to the source here. You do not need to power on to get audio to come through. So if you plug into your source and you give it a destination, your audio will automatically come through on this, okay? If I hit power on, it will take a little bit, it's gonna take a few seconds for it actually to boot up and turn on to show you that it's on, but it's receiving the signal right now. So you're gonna hear it click, turn on, a few seconds later, give it a second, this one's a little slower than the other two. It will eventually clip over and the blue will move on to on, showing that the power is on here. I can probably do it a little faster than the other two. See how it just clips over, showing that it's on. So when it turns on, right now it's because it's warming up. Give it, how many seconds does it have left there? 6, 5, 4. Okay, we'll wait a second. Now that it's on, and it should bounce over to on, okay? When you want to turn your projectors off, you're hitting the off buttons, okay? That's gonna turn them all off. It will still leave your audio. So for example, if you're going back to Pandora, and we were using a slideshow here, we either have to mute the computer or we have to completely turn down the volume in here or something to that effect, because if you have something plugged in, no matter what you do from the audio standpoint, it will always project in and play if you have something coming from your source, okay? When we look at audio, this is talking about anything being plugged into the wall plate, okay? So it's not the Pandora we use remotely, it's just anything being plugged in. Our room mixes here allows you to control the level of music in each room. So program stands for anything plugged in. Mics is going to be the microphones, okay? So if I want the Great View room to be super loud, I'm gonna turn my program up. So for example, had this worked correctly the other night when we had the dance, we could have cranked the volume absolutely as loud as possible here. We could have turned it down in the back, so anybody chatting and talking back there could have had it a little bit quieter, which would have been really nice. What actually ended up happening was our programming was just set at a threshold too low, so it wouldn't let it go any higher because it protects the speakers. Right now, we've got it loud enough for you guys to be able to have a fun little dance. But if you want to mute, you can mute all the way across. Blue means selected. You can unselect, okay? You can combine Great View Room and Lobby, so meaning anytime I do something here, it's going to also do it there. Because I'm at the top of it, it's not going to let me go any further. But for example, I had a church service in here. They were preaching, speaking up in front, and there were kids and parents sitting out in the lobby that wanted to not be a distraction, but they still wanted to hear what's going on. So what it's doing is forcing anything coming from the Great View Room also to go into the lobby. Okay. Wireless mics here is going to help you assign your mics. So we have green, red, white, and yellow. Yellow is our lapel. There is a physical yellow mic back there. Please do not use it unless we absolutely have to. That's going to be a backup in case something breaks or if we can't get another one to work correctly. It will sound fine, but it's not calibrated to sound the best because the frequencies of the lapel and the yellow mic are not the same. So the lapel's programmed to sound really great. The yellow mic will work, but it's not going to sound as great because they have to be able to work on the same frequency. Long story short, that one's a backup. Okay. When you want to choose where it's going, we're just going to click on the room below the color. So red's going in the Great View Room, right's in the southwest, southeast. Simple as that, right? You can mute, you can unmute, you can change the volume of each independent mic, up and down, very simple. Okay. Record and monitor outputs, we do have monitors available in the back. If you ever need to use these, I'll do a sound check with you and talk to you about how this works. So this is an option you really shouldn't have to deal with. You can go into mic mixer here. So you have your wireless mics, and then there's also the mic mixer, so you can give their master volume a little bit more boost here within that mic mixer. Okay. Music is going to pertain just to our Pandora. Okay. So a few things. If you hit browse and go to Pandora, it'll give you options here. For example, we want to listen to, we'll put Love Song Radio on, just a little background music. You just select the station. As it loads, it'll tell you the song that's playing. If you haven't skipped too much, which I still think it's got a certain limit on skips, I don't know why, which is fine. But you can skip songs, you can pause songs, you can thumb up, thumb down. We can add stations, but what we did find out is you can only kind of broadly search for things. You can't actually type into it. So if you needed a specific station, You should have that set in advance for you. What I'll do is I'll go into our account online, program it in, and it'll pop up here. But if you do run into somebody wanting something specific that's not on here, you'll have to call me, I'll log you in, and then we'll add it to our new list. The overall, how we work this here, I'm going to hit pause. Well, I guess you probably want to hear what's going on. Our master volume for the music is going to be volume up and volume down here. You choose the room that it's playing in based on these here. So you can kind of hear it in the background a little bit. If we want to take it up, turn the volume up. If we want it only in the lobby, you know, or turn rooms on, turn rooms off, we can do it that way. If for whatever reason this is controlling them all, but you want the southeast hall to be quieter, you go into the back room, room BGM or background music levels. This is going to allow you to control like the balance between the two. So if you want the lobby to be louder, you want the southwest hall to be louder, you crank those up or crank those down. You can hit reset and they'll all go back to a flat level with each other. This is our master, this is independent right here. Okay. All right. Lights. When the walls are open, the way I understood it here was if I hit one, they're all going to respond. So I can do cans off. And that's going to turn all of our cans off. See how they're going all the way through. If the walls were divided, you could do them independently. If you have AV preset, this is going to be like the kind of best setting for a presentation. The only thing to keep in mind with that is this is like daytime events where they don't have a speaker in the front of the room because it's dark up here. It's where they're just watching a video or things like that. Minimum preset is where everything but the back lights go on, and that's because when we have a bar, we want to make sure that we have a little bit of security light on there. If you need to raise or lower the cans, you're going to push and hold this raise and lower button here. That will change the can. Now, something to still keep in mind, push number 1 lowered them. Push number 2 will bring them back up. So if I want them to go lower than this, I have to touch it once and then touch it again to get it to go back down. So every time you touch it, it goes in opposite direction. So rather than trying to mess with it for too long, hopefully that helps. For our shades will still automatically come down if it's too bright outside and they're trying to help you get a better view of the screen. If it's darker and you just want the shades down, we'll hit shades down. Now, for example, I want them to stop right here. We'll double tap, and that will hold them wherever you want them to be. Okay? Up, we'll open them up. Last one, not least, is power. You can also turn your projectors off here, and you can turn your audio off here. So at the end of the night, if you want to make sure you got it all done, off, 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 you go home. Okay? Any questions about the AV system?
So basically it's all the same commands as before, it's just set up differently? Okay.
It does all the same stuff. You don't have to worry about learning anything really new. It's just kind of where to find it and what it looks like.
Sounds good.
And like it responds, so like the old one, if you'd like take it off the wall, sometimes it would like not respond. And like that thing is like, you
Awesome.
can't go anywhere and like
Okay.
do whatever.
Like go to the bathroom and stuff.
We're not taking in the bathroom with us, but good thought, yes.